Greetings, unsettled souls. Welcome to The Correct Views. It's Sam I.B. again. You're doing political commentary for the Media Speaks. You might know me from Blasting News, maybe from Teddy Stick, perhaps the Conservative Daily Post. Regardless of where you know me from, Google is having some kind of a problem with its camera. And I'm happy to say that it's not a problem that's on my end. So we're just going to go ahead on with the show because I'm going to do it through screen share. And you'll get to see what I'm seeing and you'll get all of your news. Listen to this. Earth Day. How about epic fail, like Earth-sized fail? The MSN News, it's a Fox News Mirror. Earth Day has embraced hysteria and abandoned science. Sunday, of course, was Earth Day, a celebration conceived by then U.S. Senator Galen Nelson and first held in 1970 as a symbol of environmental responsibility and stewardship. It used to be about clean air and water, not fining you for something that isn't happening, not charging you to heat your home and taxing your gas prices, both fuel and home gas, of course, because of the myth of global warming. There is no global warming. And the science has proved that extensively. It has been proven via things like ClimateGate. It has been proved that anytime they take a section, let's say that I told you that what I highlighted here is all the words there are in this entire article. And as you can see, T is as common as E in the English language. See that? Okay, well, that's not really true. And if I was to highlight the entire article, you'd be able to see that. Well, stay with me. That's the analogy. They use little tiny segments where it looks as though something has warmed or the planet is heated up. It hasn't. Okay, it has not done so. Only when you use little tiny segments like that does it hold true. So that's what we're talking about here. It says, in recent years, however, Earth Day has developed into an occasion for professional environmental activists and alarmists to warn of apocalypse, dish anti-technology dirt, and proselytize. Passion and zeal now trump science, and probability takes a backseat to plausibility. The Earth Day Network, which organizes Earth Day events and advocacy, regularly distorts science and exaggerates fears in order to advance its big government agenda. With a theme of end plastic pollution, this year's event is no exception. Now, I've written about this with the Conservative Daily Post. You have to love this. They're trying to get rid of plastic bags, particularly in New York City. That's hilarious because we all know how well wet paper bags hold up on the subway. I mean, this is the kind of stupidity you get from the left in America these days. And it's been that way for a while, actually. The Earth Day organizers have produced a plastic pollution premier action toolkit, good Lord, which enumerates all of the scary warnings that activists should use to empower journalists, to frighten the public, and to spur politicians to drastic regulatory action. How dire is the threat? According to the Earth Day website, about as serious as it can possibly get. Dun, dun, dun. From poisoning and injuring marine life into the ubiquitous presence of plastics in our food. Now, that is true. Disrupting human hormones and causing major life-threatening diseases in early puberty, the exponential growth of plastics is threatening our planet's survival. We need to do a better job of getting rid of them, and we need to do a better job of keeping them out of our food. But we certainly need them to carry our groceries home and to make our laptops. So, I mean, things need to be viewed with a bit of common sense. She needs to be viewed. Nice ad. Threatening our planet's survival. This isn't hyperbole, it's hysteria. Even Chicken Little didn't claim the sky was falling to destroy the Earth. The Earth Day campaign forfeits a good opportunity by injecting a toxic mix of politics and junk science into opposition to pollution, that rare issue where we might have broad consensus. It turns genuine environmentalists like us into Earth Day skeptics. The Earth Day campaign itself isn't about ending pollution, it's about ending plastics, foregoing their important applications, and stirring panic. Consider bisphenol A. Now, this stuff can actually make bisphenol A is toxic. Bisphenol, and this is where I agree with the lefties. Bisphenol A can actually make a person lean towards homosexuality when they had not before. That doesn't mean that every single person that's gay is, because of bisphenol A, but there are a number of people who are because of it. It changes the hormones in males. Well, it's the chemical component of many plastics that environmentalists love to demonize. One proponent environmental groups claims bisphenol A is capable of interfering with the body's hormones. Now, see, that is true. The studies that stymie that in some way are actually quite mistaken. But the idea that man is warming the planet, which they get onto here, is simply baseless. Yes, DDT is deadly. I can understand wanting to get rid of that, but when you get rid of certain chemicals like that too, you also see a rise in bed bugs and cockroaches and various things like that, of which DDT used to be used as a poison and was very good at its role there. Let me see if the camera has decided to work here on Google. No, it has not, so we're going to go with screen share. I'm sure you don't mind. You're missing my pretty face. Boo-hoo-hoo. Inmate dead in cell for 2 or 3 days. Staff blamed the smell on the sewer. This had to be mentioned, friends. You guys, it doesn't get any stranger. An inmate at the state prison in Otay Mesa was found dead for days last April for days last April before prison staffers realized, hey, there's a dead guy here. According to the autopsy, staffers blamed the smell on the sewer system, and during that time, the man's cellmate discouraged people from checking on the already dead inmate, who was under a blanket on his bunk at Richard J. Donovan Correctional Facility. So it's already kind of weird. The cellmate, it turns out, was serving time for homicide and related to the death of his own father, whose decomposed body was found under a mattress in his home. The medical examiner's office, which released the report earlier this month, ruled that James Acuna's case and manner of death was undetermined, noting that it was possible that the 58-year-old inmate on his third prison term died of natural causes. Last year, Sheriff's Department officials said Acuna had been dead for 2 or 3 days before he was found. The investigative narrative and autopsy report, it says, in which the information gleaned from medical records is redacted, that's strange, provides a glimpse into the death of Acuna, who was found in his cell late morning, April 24th, 2017. A blanket was pulled over his head. The report states that at one point, the smell of Acuna's 2 men's second-floor cell brought complaints from other inmates who prompted staffers to put in a work order suspecting that the problem was the sewer. So yeah, these Keystone cops are really on it. They don't even know what a decomposing body smells like. The report provides little in the way of specifics, including the identity of the cellmate. If any of you have ever, I smelled a deer as roadkill once. Oh my God, you've never smelled anything worse than a decomposing body. It was also unclear how staffers were unaware of Acuna's death, despite routine daily head counts, including a count during which inmates are required to stand at their cells. Perhaps the dead man stood. We don't know. Sheriff's homicide detectives who handled the investigation determined that no homicide had occurred. Maybe the police just said that somebody stood because they didn't really want to do their job. The spokesman for the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation, which runs the state's prisons, also declined to identify or discuss the cellmate, citing privacy reasons. Our internal and administrative investigations are still ongoing, Waters said. And once they are concluded, we will hold the staff accountable if any wrongdoing is found. If a man was dead for eons of time, like days, rotting, and there might be there might be something maybe the staff did here. We don't know. We need to look into it. Madness. This comes right after Easter. I thought it was interesting. You can tell, if it had been staged, maybe it would have come sooner. Listen to this. Express.co.uk, Jesus proof most vivid ever account of Christ unearthed from a Roman historian. We don't have any proof that Christ was real. Hey, bonehead, yes we do. Tacitus is regarded as one of the best historians of the Roman era and was born just 54 AD. Jesus would have been put to death around 30 to 33 AD. Now, friends, let's pause here. That's important. because if Tacticus was about to say something fake, that would be like us trying to make up stories, saying Prince rose from the dead, or saying, that's a bad example, he just died, saying that Peter Cushing rose from the dead. Everybody would say, no, he didn't. So the fact that much of what Tacticus wrote was within 20 years of when Christ died is extremely important, because it proves that the story was not being embellished. And you also see this with Josephus, another historian. Well, Tacticus mentions Jesus once in his annals, and a record of events year by year when Nero, the Roman Empire, pushes the blame of the Great Fire of Rome, which took place in 64 AD, onto a relatively new group called Christians. And of course, Christ predicted that Nero would do that in the Gospels. In the Annals, which cover 14 AD to 66 AD, Tacticus then gives a bit of background on Christians. And even Pontius Pilate, who had sentenced him to death, Christ is referred to as Christus, probably Christus. So there you go. But we don't have any proof that Pontius Pilate really did it. Yes, well, now we do. So you can't use that example anymore, can you? Because it's not true. Tacticus writes, and therefore, to scotch the rumor, Nero substituted as culprits or punished with the utmost remnants of cruelty a class of men loathed for their vices, whom the crowd styled Christians. Christus, from whom the name had its origin, suffered the extreme penalty during the reign of Tiberius at the hands of one of the procurators, Pontius Pilate, and the most mischievous superstition, thus checked at the moment, again broke not only in Judea, but the first source of the evil, but even in Rome, where all things hideous and shameful from every part of the world center and become popular. Again, he's writing about what he believes is the spread of Christianity and what Nero is doing to them. And he's documenting that Christ was put to death by Pontius Pilate. According to an arrest that was made of all who pleaded guilty, then upon the information, that writes the historian, an immense multitude was convicted, not so much of the crime of firing the city as of hatred against mankind. The account backs up the written proof that Jesus did in fact exist. The sole surviving account of the first century Judea, the War of the Jews by Josephus, who I mentioned, a first century Romano-Jewish scholar and historian, does mention Jesus specifically on several occasions, including the fact that he rose from the dead. At this time, there was a wise man named Jesus. His conduct was good, and he was known to be virtuous. At one point, he says, if he can be considered a man, as in God. Many people from among the Jews and other nations became his disciples. Pilate, again, condemned him to be crucified and to die. But those who became his disciples did not abandon his discipleship, which is exactly what has been said for a long time. Guys, we've got 3 to get to left. And this here shocked me because it showed me that Turkey is actually on the right side of history here, even though maybe Donald Trump is not. I'm actually liking Syria's particular stance on how you handle countries in a state of warfare. Listen to this. Do you get involved? Do you meddle with your bomb-making nose? No, you do not. Turkey says that they are not siding with anyone on Syrian policy. They are different from Iran, Russia, and the U.S. Turkey does not stand with or against any country on Syria, and its policies in the region are different. According to Deputy Prime Minister Bekir Bozdog, he said on Monday, the comments by Bozdog, the government spokesman, were in response to a reporter's question about an earlier remark put forth by French President Emmanuel Macron, who said Turkey's support of missile strikes against Syria showed that it had separated from Russia. The United States, Britain, and France fired more than 100 missiles, of course, on Syria, which many of us, including myself, think Trump should have stayed out of. It's not our affair. Who's hearing me? Is anybody hearing me? People in Syria are killing each other, so we're going to kill Syrians to stop Syrians from killing Syrians. Can't make it up. Turkey's Syria policy isn't to stand with or against any country. There is no change to the policy that Turkey has been carrying out, Bullsdog told reporters in Qatar. We do not have a united policy with the United States on the YPG issue, and Turkey's stance has not changed. We are also against the unconditional support for the Syrian regime, and we are at odds with Iran and Russia on this, he said. While Turkey is cooperating with Russia and Iran to wind down some of the violence that's happening in Syria, Ankara has long demanded that President Bashar al-Assad must go and has backed rebels against him. So, I mean, they're not saying that they've never had a dog in their fight. But Turkey has long been at loggerheads with Washington over U.S. support for Syrian Kurdish YPG militia, who may be coming in his place. Ankara considers them a terrorist organization linked to Kurdish militants waging a decades-long insurgency in Turkey. They supported the airstrikes by U.S., British, and French forces, saying the move sent a message to Assad, but Turkey did not hesitate to work together with any country who defended the correct principles. On Syria, friends, this one I had to get to, even though you've heard about it. Look up Ministry's themes. Look up all of the music. I mean, for some of us who love industrial music, Lee Ermey here, who's dead at 74, it's terrible. He was like a singer. We sampled in so much of the music we love. Of course, he was in Full Metal Jacket, and I would say they kind of rebirthed the part for the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which I think was one of the best of the horror movie remakes that came around. The Hills Have Eyes was good too. Lee Ermey, a former Marine Corps drill instructor, known to millions of moviegoers as the sadistic gunnery Sergeant Hartman in Stanley Kubrick, my favorite director's Full Metal Jacket, he died on Sunday morning. According to his longtime manager, he was 74. He died due to complications of pneumonia. Which is funny, not funny, but remember Full Metal Jacket, same director, Stanley Kubrick. Pneumonia! They said it was pneumonia, but I knew what killed her. A victim of the modern age. It's my impersonation of that movie. Listen, he will be greatly missed by all of us, Rogan wrote. Semper Fi, Godspeed. As a Kansas native, Ermey enlisted in the Marines in 1961 at the age of 17. He served for 11 years, including 14 months in Vietnam, before he was discharged in 1972. He served as a technical advisor for Francis Ford Coppola's 1979 Vietnam War epic, of course, Apocalypse Now. He also played a helicopter pilot. He didn't get his big break until 8 years later, of course, in Full Metal Jacket, after seeing a demo tape of Ermey railing at extras while tennis balls flew at him. In his role as a drill instructor, breaking in new Marines, the boot camp in Paris Island, South Carolina, Ernie Ward his way into film history by berating the unfortunate charges. And, of course, there he is. How many of you know that this sample was in Combi Christ's This Is My Rifle? Do me a favor, when this show is done, not now, listen to This Is My Rifle. They use this.
Oh, yeah. Pop that blister.
Ow.
Jesus H. Christ. Private Pile, why is your footlocker unlocked? Sir, I don't know, sir. Private Pile.
If I use too much of it without talking, they will go ahead and say that I'm not commenting on it. But look what a good actor he was.
Well, if there is one thing in this world that I hate, it is an unlocked footlocker. You know that, don't you? Sir, yes, sir. If it wasn't for dickheads like you, there wouldn't be any thievery in this world, would there? Sir, no, sir.
It's just an absolutely amazing actor. What says, here you are all equally worthless, and my orders are to weed out the non-hackers. Do not pack gear and serve in my beloved corps. Do you maggots understand that?
Yeah!
Oh, yeah.
Well, now, let's just see if there's anything missing. Holy Jesus.
Here it comes, guys.
What is that? What the fuck is that? What is that, Private Pile? Sir, jelly donuts, sir.
All right, guys, you got to see the movie. But I do want to say, of course, he was an outspoken conservative. He was blacklisted from Hollywood for a while due to his political views. but he was in Toe Soldiers. Great. Toy Soldiers, Prefontaine, Mail Call, and Lock and Load, of course, with the History Channel. He said he's an independent, and he said, if I said something bad about the president, I had something savory and say about the president's administration. And even though I did vote for him the first time around, I was blacklisted, he speaks of Obama. So he's passed on, friends. Rest in peace, Gunnery Sergeant. Industrial music won't be the same without you, friends. The dumbdee! The dumbdee of the day. Don't forget, friends, it's listener supported. You can listen and donate at the correct views at hotmail.com. Every penny you give to me goes towards a better show. Runaway Cow defends its freedom in Poland for the dumbdee of the day. A local governor in Poland says that a cow that escaped while being taken to a slaughterhouse is still avoiding capture, even though the order to kill it has been canceled. We wanted to kill it for running away. The red limousine beef cow that fled last month has gained celebrity status as it defends its life and freedom, roaming a lake-filled region near Nysa in the southwest of the country. Governor Czesław Bielobron said Wednesday that the cow is cunning and clever and uses the difficult terrain to trick search groups swimming from island to island. When caught, it will be put in the local animal reserve. It was so brave and strong-headed that we decided to keep it, said Bielobron. Now, of course, the dumbdee of the day. The cow is cunning and clever, more cunning than the governor, clearly. Friends, you're listening to the correct views. Thank you for doing so. Please hit share, and thank you. Let me know what you think of the show, and don't forget to donate through PayPal at the correct views at Hotmail.